So I am a big fan of leather style perfumes, and I also like it when people say to me, I love leather perfumes, what would you recommend? In that moment, I always love to say to them, so what do you think leather smells like? You know, what does leather smell like? And they're like, well, leather, naturally. Then the next thing I say, okay, so being that leather is a byproduct of a dead animal, it's the hide of this dead animal, do you think that that smells like leather? So before I go any further, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love you to do so. Niche Fragrance Collector, it's all about talking about niche fragrances, about perfumes, about the history of perfumes, and anything to do with this kind of stuff. So let me go back to my story. So where does the scent of leather actually come from? As humans, we've been using leather products for many, many years. In the 1700s, when they started to become a little bit more refined, so the nobles and the kings and all that sort of stuff wanted to have leather goods, like gloves, for instance. This stuff used to smell. It was stinky. So leather product was gross. Tanneries back in the 1700s were actually located at the edge of town, away from everyone, because the stink, the smell was disgusting. To be a tanner, you were pretty low on that social scale. So what would happen is that as I guess the glove makers, and Creed is a classic example, they were originally glove makers, as they would receive this, if they made the glove, can you imagine, you know, it's like putting your hand inside the butt of an animal, you know, you come out and you're like, oh my goodness, you know, what is that? So they would perfume these leather goods. And hence the birth of leather was then born. People loved this smell, you know, this interpretation of this smell that became part of that leather good, that it then became leather. And we've now assumed that that's what leather smells like. So where is the birth of all this? And I've done some research. If anybody's out there that knows any more on this, I would love you to add your comments. I have looked around quite a bit, and one place that I have noticed, because it's all about these early glove makers and things like that, they would blend different essential oils to create a particular accord. But one accord stuck, and that leather is the accord that stuck. Now, every time you open up a box of beautiful Italian leather shoes, there's that smell of leather, or a leather bag. It has that signature leather smell. So where does that leather accord actually come from? The earliest thing that I've seen is that it's from Russia. There is a native tree to that area in Russia called the silver birch tree, and it produces a tar, a black resin, and the people from Russia would grab this resin and rub it on their leather goods, on their boots, for instance. And that smell, that birch tar, or that tree, became popular. That smell became popular, and then it became adopted, and now it's what it is. It's leather fragrance. All right, so this guy here. If you like leather perfumes, then this one here is unique, different, but masculine. I know that these guys, Argos, say that it's a unisex fragrance. I find that this particular fragrance has a masculinity to it. Let me go and tell you why. The fragrance opens up with a wonderful top note of bergamot, leather, pepper, and raspberry. And it's that raspberry that I want to talk more about. Then in the heart, it goes into violet, jasmine, a leather, or leather accord, and then pink pepper. And then finally in the base, there's musk, leather, oud, birch, and vanilla. Okay, so I have a number of, and if those who have been watching my channel, I am a big fan of a range called Memo. I've been calling it Mimo. There is a subscriber out there, they sent me, put a message saying it's not Mimo, as in the cousin of Nemo, it's Memo. So my apologies. Sometimes I go a bit rogue when it comes to my pronunciations. I make up stuff too. So Memo have an awesome leather range. And it's an interpretation of leather from all these different things. Okay, so if you like leather, have a look at that. But back to Argos. Now, Argos is a new house. They've been around since 2014. So again, part of this conversation, I have and you can see I've got some really classic niche perfumes in my collection, Xerjoff, Creeds, things of that nature. But I also get excited about finding these hidden gems. And actually this coming Sunday, we're talking about hidden gems with Kevin and the Oligarch. So this one here, Bacio Immortale, I fell in love on first spray. It has a very unique fruity leather opening to the fragrance. The perfumer puts it down, or the house puts it down, that it's a unisex fragrance. I'm not saying, girls, this is not for you, but the florals, the jasmine and the violet, for me, they don't come through. The raspberry does. So on first spray, that raspberry note really comes out beautifully. So it's that leather accord, but with a fruity element to it. As I mentioned, when I first sprayed this, it took me, it was like a flashback. It took me back to a moment in my youth. The hardest thing to this is I've actually sprayed it a few times, and it does it constantly. It takes me back to this youth. Takes me back to a moment in time. I can't pinpoint it. I've tried, and you know what, the more, it's one of those things, the more you try to grab, it's like smoke. The more you try to grab it, the more it sort of comes out of your fingers. It takes me back to a younger me. It takes me back to, I don't know, there's, for me, the only way I can define this is masculine strength. And I've purposely put my good friend Indiana Jones, where is he? He's right there, boom. For me, he epitomizes masculine strength. So when it dries down, it does go in things like oud, things like birch, which is that resin that has that leather-like quality. It does have a leather accord in there. It also has musk in there. There is vanilla, so there is a slight softness to it, but those other notes are a lot more powerful. So again, girls, yes, this could be one for you, but for me, this is a masculine fragrance. This is a masculine fragrance. And the other thing too is that I've actually shared it with, again, I become when I find something cool, find something new, I become a little bit evangelical, and I start sharing it with friends and family and everything else. Now, all the men in my family and the men that I know, that I associate with, they all love this fragrance, to the point I actually, one of my colleagues sprayed it, and I asked him, what does it, I said, do you like this fragrance? Boom. And he's like, wow, this is really nice. This reminds me of my father when I was young, and I would look up to him, and there was comfort. The same thing. There's a masculine strength about this fragrance. This has become my son's go-to fragrance. So he doesn't have a signature scent. He has a signature scent for the moment. And this guy here has become his, for the moment, signature scent. When it comes to longevity, this fragrance performs beautifully. 8 to 9 hours, very comfortable. The sillage on this is awesome. You're getting beautiful sillage. People are picking up this fragrance. As I said, when my son comes back from work, I can smell the fragrance on him. So for me, I really love this fragrance. I am a bit of a fan of leather perfumes, and because of that raspberry, there's a different twist to this particular perfume compared to the others that I have in my range. So my love on this is pretty high. It also dries down beautifully as a leather fragrance. Now, all the things that I love about that dry down, the oud and the leather and the musk, are the reasons that my wife is not a huge fan of this particular perfume. So for her, it's actually, she's not a huge fan. When it comes to others, I actually get a very positive response. It has great sillage, so people actually comment on it. And the other thing I love when they comment, and I know there's a little bit of vanity in this. When people say, whoa, that smells great, what are you wearing? I do love saying, like I said, I have my staples, the creeds, but I always love, I don't know, it's nice to know that there are some fragrances or houses that people are not completely aware of, those hidden gems, as I mentioned. And I love saying, yeah, it's a new fragrance house called Argos. What's Argos? I don't know, it just makes you feel like, well, it makes me feel like I'm at the cutting edge, baby. I'm at the forefront of all things great. Oh, pricing. Pricing is right there. I think it's a niche fragrance. There are good oils in here, so yeah, it's like I said, that longevity, all those elements, it does play around. Raspberry pops at the start, then it sort of eases in. So it's a good niche perfume. So there you have it, Bacio Immortale by Argos. Now the only thing, Christian Petrovic, if you are watching, he's the owner of the house, I don't quite understand why it's called Bacio Immortale. Bacio Immortale means an eternal kiss. And for me, I always think an eternal kiss should be a lot softer. It should be a few more florals in there. I don't know. Well, maybe, anyway, maybe it's a very, like I said, it's a masculine sort of, anyway. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love you to do so. Join the Niche Fragrance Collector family. The great news is, if you are Australian, OLIGARCH actually range this particular fragrance. They're the distributor, national distributor in Australia for it. And if you can order online or go into store, I'd recommend it. To test this on skin is one thing that will be spectacular for you. You can get 10% off as a subscriber to NFC. Code is right there. Make sure that you check them out. They're an awesome luxury niche fragrance house based here in Melbourne. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next video.